Hello. Over the next few weeks, I would like to talk with you a little bit about this idea of aloneness. What is it? What can we do about it? What does Scripture say about it? Alone is a complicated term because it's changed so much over time. Not that long ago, only a few decades, it used to describe what we would now potentially call lonely. And nowadays, it has so many different connotations. Leave me alone. Give me space. Stop doing what you're doing. Maybe even like, I need to get away because I feel uncomfortable and feeling threatened, and you just need to leave me alone. But also the idea of I'm all alone. Like in the History Channel series, where people are completely left without human companionship, called alone. They don't even have the echoes of companionship. This is the kind of alone that we first encounter in Genesis 2:18, where God says it is not good for the person to be alone. I'm pretty sure this text was quoted at my wedding, and honestly, it felt quite out of place to me. I was far from alone in that space. So many who loved me, so many who had taken time out of their lives just to be there with me. It was such a symbol of not being alone. Yet, too often when we read Genesis 2:18, what we hear is the following: so God made man a wife. But that isn't what's really being said here at all. The aloneness that God fears for man isn't that of having a singular partner, but rather that of not having community, that of not having relationships of any kind. Daniel Erlander describes it this way: God didn't just want one or two people, so God just kept making a bunch of us. We cannot live unless there is a whole community. And from the family of Adam till the eve of today, we continue to be people who most often live and operate together. But what really is the problem with aloneness? Why does Erich Fromm describe the main goal of life as escaping the prison of our aloneness? I want to go back to the TV show Alone. It's not a show that I watch often or even one that I particularly enjoy. But in an early episode, and I've been told this occurs in other episodes as well, an individual is dropped in a remote area and comes very prepared for the survival part of the challenge. They know how to avoid predators and safely navigate space and take care of themselves from both a food and a rest perspective. But a few weeks in, they still tap out because they can no longer take the overwhelming isolation. They said that, I knew it would be hard being alone. I just didn't know it would be this hard. And as they waited to be picked up and extracted from the show, they followed that up with, I crave human companionship like it's water. That last line sticks with me. The idea of Eden in Genesis has everything. All the hills, streams, trees, meadows, and woods that anyone could ask for. Feels like to me it's the world's biggest playground. But that wasn't enough. There was a need for others. A need that ached so deep, resounded so painfully, that God had to get to work making more humans and filling the world. So, why do we ache so for this contact? Why, when we lose those we connect with, does the aloneness set in like a prison? I think it begins with being made in God's image. God is not just creator, but God is also breath, the Spirit, and the words, Jesus, the Son. Thus, God's own self is created of and for relationships. And so when God creates people in God's image, we also need relationships. This is what makes this verse so much more significant. This one little short statement changed everything. In previous chapters, God's creative acts have been detailed step by extraordinary step. But Only after God makes that first person does God even consider that something might be amiss and not good, or tov, as it would be in Hebrew, in all of creation. The resulting Eve isn't the resolution of the problem, mind you. Because imagine yourself, alone like Adam, or even like our contestant in the TV show, and reflect on what feels not good about your situation. If you are immersed in a magnificent garden, a gorgeous creation of lush greenery, the sky overhead, the ocean at your feet, the mountains at your back, surrounded by an exotic array of fish, birds, and animals. Everything that a person could ever want. And yet, you are utterly, entirely, cravingly alone as far as anyone who you can connect with, share with, play with. Can you feel that? Can you sense it? That ache that comes so often with loss is the not goodness of our aloneness. Adam was the only creature made in the image of the Creator. There is nothing and no one else like Adam in that moment in all of creation. And that feeling of aloneness, that feeling that no one gets me, that no one understands what's happening, that I am alone in what I feel and what I experience, was not good in God's sight. But even after creating Eve, it's God's blessing to the pair, saying, gather and be fruitful and multiply and increase in number, fill the earth. Things aren't tov, aren't good, until the world is filled with abundant, authentic community. And that authenticness is important to us today, because aloneness isn't solved by just putting a bunch of people on the earth. We can see in our world that we constantly find ways to divide ourselves and constantly find ourselves isolated, either completely isolated or by means of being placed in a siloed role where we are only one thing to the people around us. But Adam isn't just made a husband. He becomes a father, a grandfather, but eventually also a neighbor, a friend. He becomes relational to all those, even those not close to him, like his first family. God takes this truly alone human and generates an entire community from them and for them. And yet, we too often feel like we are without that community, without others who understand us or where we are in life. We are without those who feel like we can be authentic with, and without those who we believe will be authentic with us. We focus this Lent on the writings of Howard Thurman, among many other things that talk about what it means to be children of God. And Howard Thurman grew up the grandson of a slave, and he would speak often of what his grandmother would say. We are not just slaves. We are children of God. And in the end, that is all that matters. When we see ourselves as children of God, we become that essential thing that God created. Way more than for aloneness, but to help us move towards community and connection. Over the next few weeks, we will dive deeper into what can aid our escape from this aloneness. But for now, let us wrestle anew with the meaning of Genesis 2:18, and let us embrace a more holistic appreciation of God's resolution to the problem of Adam's aloneness, and know that God can do that for us as well. May God be with you and bless you, with others, and with God's peace. Talk to you soon.